10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And welcome everyone to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. We're thankful that you're here with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live on the internet at cklu.ca. You just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. If you download their same Radio Player Canada app, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime, on your favorite device. And we're also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow the channel and the page. And yeah, so I'm just trying to get some of the stories up for the day, but the computer is doing some weird, funky stuff. And so it is what it is. So anyways, we can also be found on demand at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News after the show, and then on demand as well on x.com/Sudbury News. And also our news aggregating website, sudbury.news. So make sure to head on over there. Check it out. It's all the local news aggregated into one website. And today, mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. We are ready to kick off the show and start off with a little bit of weather. We'll be back after that with news headlines, local news headlines. We have the latest on Rocco, the 19-year-old who unfortunately perished, and we weren't sure why he did. And there's a follow-up story from the Sudbury Star on that. They've investigated it and they've come to a conclusion. We'll have that, and we'll have a deep dive into our country, into our net zero policies, and do we need to get to net zero in Canada, or have we always been there? We've always been net zero, so we'll show how that is the case. Government accountability in Canada, so we'll do some deep dives there. But we'll start off with a little bit of weather, and we'll be back right after this. And as usual, Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Currently, it's 13 degrees out there. Very cool compared to what it's been for the last couple of weeks, that's for sure. Mostly cloudy. Today, we can expect it to be mainly cloudy with a 60% chance of showers, high of 20, UV index 7 or high. And then tonight, mainly cloudy with a low of 12. Now, Wednesday, sunny. High of 26 with the humidex 28, so it'll be a little warmer, as you know, almost similar to what we've had the last couple of weeks. And then Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 26, as you can see our long range forecast here. Friday, 28, a mix of sun and cloud. Saturday, 40% chance of showers, 23 is your high, 60% chance of showers on Sunday, so it looks like could be a wet weekend. High of 18, then a high of 16, and a 40% chance of showers on Monday. That's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, thanks for being with us, everyone. We have a few people on. We just want to give a few shout outs to as we get everything set up here and running, as the computers now are responding to what I'm asking them to do. Good morning, Northern Hillbilly. Good morning, people. Thanks for being on. Nana says, hey, kiddo. Thank you very much for that. Good morning. Blessings, everybody. And same to you, Nana. Thanks for being on always. And Vin, good morning to you, as well as Hazel. Good morning. Love the prayer emoji. And much needed, much appreciated. And thank you very much. Brian, good morning to you. And we also have Colleen, who's on with some prayer emojis as well. And again, much needed, much appreciated. And Brian's here. He's saying, good morning, Sudbury campers. Gotta love those amazing pre-show blues tracks. Yes, on CKLU. Thanks for giving a shout out for those. Big shout out to Emma on releasing her new track, Flesh and Bones. Love it. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. We'll have her on the show at some point. Play a little bit of her music for y'all. And Marianne, good morning, everyone from Barrie, liked and shared as usual. And Andrew, good morning to you. Again, thanks for checking in, Andrew. Thanks for being on. And Sylvia, good morning to all. Enjoy your day. Nancy, definitely not cloudy. It's actually kind of scary, the skies. Okay, so fake clouds, if I'm interpreting you correctly, the spray that we get sprayed with on an almost daily basis, that a lot of times gets interpreted as clouds, for sure. And Pat, good morning, y'all. Good morning to you as well, Pat. And Brian also says, thought of the day, life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Okay, so go with the flow, basically. Take things as they come. And appreciate that, Brian. And Vin, looks like Pierre beat out 212 electorates. Yes. Apparently the headline is Easy Victory for Pierre. He'll be back in the House of Commons. So we'll see more clips on some of the debates that go on in the House of Commons now that he's going to be back. And Marianne also says, still don't trust Pierre. Okay. Again, politics, right? A lot of people look at politics as being a bird, and you have a left wing and a right wing, but they're all part of the same bird. And David, good morning, my friend. Grand rising for sure. Thanks for being on. And Vin, yes, birds of a feather for sure. They flock together. Judy, good morning to you as well. Thanks for being on, guys. Let's get started with a few headlines here. Oh, it is there. Look at that. Wow. I was right down to the nitty gritty. Okay, so let's just start off with our story of the day. Who are we going to take it from? Sudbury Star or CBC? Or Sudbury.com. They all have the story. So let's get that up on the screen from our news aggregating website. Sudbury.news. So we have the Sudbury Star headlines. Acute carbon monoxide intoxication killed Sudbury teen. Rocco Renault died while doing maintenance work. 2 Greater Sudbury police officers have been suspended for their actions on the day he died. So that again catches people's attentions, right? Like, Sudbury police officers were suspended. Why were they suspended? You know, you think, okay, was there some funny business going on with this particular story? Why would they have been suspended? People were wondering about this for a while. We promised that we would have more on it, and we couldn't have more on it until the police actually released some information, and it looks like obviously now they have. So that's the headline from Sudbury Star. Headline from CBC, workplace death in Sudbury due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Postmortem confirms. A postmortem from Ontario's Forensic Pathology Service has determined that a workplace death in Sudbury on May the 23rd was due to carbon monoxide poisoning. And now Sudbury.com. Teen's workplace death confirmed as carbon monoxide poisoning. Postmortem exam finds Rocco Renault of Sudbury, who died May 23rd while at work, suffered carbon monoxide poisoning. which caused his death. Now, which story do we pick in order to read? Like, which one would we want to, kind of, because we can click on either one of them, and you could read all three of them on our website. And yes, I was for a short time teaching a class at our local college, and I did have Rocco in my class, and so I do know him through that. And when I heard the news, I was very impacted by it. A Sudbury teen died of acute carbon monoxide poisoning while performing work at a property in Lively. The story goes on from the Sudbury Star. Okay, it was found in the unresponsive at the residence on May the 23rd, and they have a link to the previous story, the original story there, so you could read that as well. He was transported to hospital where he was later pronounced deceased. A post-mortem conducted by the Ontario Forensic Pathology Service determined the cause of death to be acute carbon monoxide intoxication. The OPP assumed control of the investigation on June 18th at the request of Greater Sudbury Police Chief, citing the institutional conflict of interest. Okay, so I'm wondering why there would have been a conflict of interest, but I guess we'll find out more on that. The move followed a chief's complaint filed June 13th regarding the actions of two off-duty Greater Sudbury police officers on the day Renault died. See, that's what gets the public's interests piqued, right? That's what piques our interest. And when we hear things like this, so we're wondering, well, what were their actions? Why did they have to be suspended with pay? Well, the nature of the officer's involvement has not been disclosed. So now we're even more curious, right? Both have been suspended with pay under the Community Safety and Policing Act. Their names have not been released, as the allegations remain unsubstantiated. So there's been some allegations towards two of our police officers, local police officers, in which the police chief has had to turn the investigation over to the OPP because of this. But then we've had our forensic pathologist in Ontario deem the death carbon monoxide poisoning. The investigation is ongoing and is led by the OPP Criminal Investigation Branch in collaboration with the Office of the Chief Coroner and the Ontario Pathology Service. So we've already seen what the Ontario Forensic Pathology Service have said, right? The Ministry of Labour, Immigration Training and Skills Development has also launched a separate investigation into the incident, given that Renault was engaged in maintenance work at the time of his death. In an obituary, Renault is remembered as a young man who has passion, kindness, an adventurous spirit, brought joy to everyone around him. He is mourned by his parents and friends, girlfriend, and others. Renault was known for his love of sports, especially hockey, and for his warm heart and unwavering loyalty. So it goes on. If you have any information on this case, you can call Crime Stoppers. I'm kind of disappointed with the lack of questioning here in this particular article myself. Back in the day, reporters were hounds. So when the police said we're not going to disclose the nature of why these particular people were suspended, I think you would have reporters asking a lot more questions than just, and I found this particular story then just went on to give information about Rocco and what was in his obituary, which we would have already read months and months ago and know already, and you could have alluded back to the particular story. So now I clicked on the CBC story, and it says we and select advertising partners collect we and select advertising partners collect some of your data in order to give you a better experience through personalized content and advertising. To limit the collection of your data, please modify your privacy preferences. You can learn this in the privacy notice. Okay, well, thanks for letting me know that, CBC. We really appreciate you for that. I know you're concerned with my privacy. I really appreciate it. So same kind of information we've already read. I'm just seeing if there's anything different that the CBC would have reported on compared to the Sudbury Star. Okay, the same thing. They've suspended 2 officers. They didn't provide any more details regarding the officers' actions. Looks like the exact same news story word for word, although they just left out the niceties what were left in his obituary. That's pretty much, it's actually less information on CBC than was on the Sudbury Star, but the main points, nonetheless. Here's Sudbury.com. You have the same information. And let's see if they have. Okay, so they have more from the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training, Skills, and Development. They were notified of a workplace fatality that occurred in Lively from an email. The email from the ministry reads, at the time, it was reported that a worker was fatally injured while performing maintenance work. The ministry extends its sincere condolences to the family. Okay, that's just from the original email that the Ministry of Labor sent out at the time of death. So the investigation continues through the OPP. So again, there was a complaint lodged. So on June the 30th, a news release saying, based on a chief's complaint, an investigation has been launched into the actions of 2 off-duty police officers on May 23rd, the day the 19-year-old died at his workplace in Lively. So were the police officers off duty during the time their actions seem suspicious? It looks like that's the case. A chief's complaint is an internal misconduct investigation initiated by the head of a police service. In this instance, it was from our own police chief here in the city. The reason cited by Greater Sudbury Police Service for transferring the investigation to the OPP was it is determined that there was an institutional conflict of interest, obviously, in accordance with the Ontario Regulations of Community Safety and Policing Act. And again, no specific information given on this. As to the nature of the actions of its 2 officers that led to their suspension and the transferring of the investigation to the OPP, the names of the suspect officers have not been released. And they said in a press release, as the allegations have not yet been substantiated, their names will not be released at this time. Both officers have been suspended without pay. Suspended with pay, in accordance with section whatever. So Ontario Provincial Police assumed the responsibility of the investigation June 18th. So July, August. So we're 2 months into the investigation. We'll see how long it takes to release the information of these officers. And again, if you have any information on this, the Crime Stoppers or OPP are asking you to reach out to them. I would also ask you to reach out to me if you have any information. You could email me at sudburynews@gmail.com. Because sometimes these things are, do you trust one police service to investigate another? I'm just saying, do you? Not everyone does. Some people feel that maybe just within police services there could be a conflict of interest, or within the industry itself, within the legal industry, within the legal side of things, that people could maybe not hold each other as accountable as you would hope. That's just the world we live in. People are skeptical, right? So we'll have more on this as more comes in, and hopefully somebody within the earshot of my voice who might know something about this particular investigation. It doesn't seem like our local news are going to get anything new, but if you have information on this and you want to even remain anonymous, you can just it's hard to remain anonymous if you message us on Facebook because I see who it comes from, or email us. But at the same time, you can ask to remain anonymous, and I will not divulge your name at all. Believe me, I never have if someone's asked me to do that. Okay, so hopefully we can have more on that as in the near future. Now, the mayor was announcing that our population was, this is from Sudbury.com, Greater Sudbury getting closer to 200,000 population mark. Mayor Paul Lefebvre has made his goal to grow Greater Sudbury's population to 200,000 people by 2050. Now, I made the claim, it might almost be a year ago now, that we're already at 200,000. So I've already been on this. I have some intel through the vaccination results of how many people were vaccinated in the city that we were already at 200,000 people. And if you drive anywhere at rush hour in Sudbury, you probably agree with that our population is already there, especially when school is happening, right? You can really feel the population of Sudbury's, is not 165,000 anymore, as it says on the signs, for sure. Hasn't been for a while. But anyways, Paul Lefebvre going public here, saying his goal to reach it by 2050, which we've already reached it, and I don't know why they don't want to make it public now. They want to make it look like it's going to be that in time. It seems we're already most of the way there, according to Paul Lefebvre. The first half of 2025 was a period of dynamic growth and strategic investment for Greater Sudbury, said in a press release from the city, with a population estimate from Statistics Canada nearing 192,000. Have you heard that? Because I remember the last statistics, report came out and it was 187,000, came out in the news, and then all of a sudden they scrubbed it and they brought it down for some reason back in the day. Not sure again why they do that. I have no idea. I just know what happened. And because I reported on it on one show, and then the next report came out and the population was going down from what they originally said. So, but now it's 192,000 people in a census of the metropolitan area. The city has made significant strides in talent attraction, healthcare expansion, and economic development, the press release said. As of 2021 census, Greater Sudbury's population stood at 166,000. The launch of 2 immigration pilot programs, the Rural Community Immigration Pilot and Francophone Community Immigration Pilot, along with the targeted Move to Sudbury campaign to attract skilled workers, has generated strong interest. Yes. But our hospital now has to take on, 30,000 more people or so. That's almost the size of a North Bay. Increase in size. And North Bay's got 2 hospitals if you take in Sturgeon Falls, which is a 15-minute drive away, 20-minute drive away from North Bay. Basically, Sturgeon Falls is closer than Capreol is to Sudbury, and Sturgeon Falls has a hospital, full-on everything, pretty much hospital, and North Bay's got a hospital too. In Sudbury, we got 1 hospital with, now 4 or 5 times the population. Interesting there, right? So there may have to be something done with our medical infrastructure here and infrastructure in general if we're bringing in all these people. Again, So it's great to applaud the fact that we're increasing our population, and it's great. This is part of the 100 million people project or whatever they call it by a certain year, by 2050 in Canada. So our mayor is just on board with all of the federal immigration policies because that's where he comes from. He's a Liberal MP from Sudbury and now is our mayor, and he's Liberal. He's all about all the Liberal policies. And again, very aggressive immigration is one of those things. And yeah, it comes with other factors as well that aren't so great. And thanks all y'all for being on that just came on, Trevor included. Good morning to you. A few other people came on while we were covering some of the news here, but I want to jump in now to some of our more national news as we kind of talk about Liberal policies, right? This is the one thing, this is coming from Mario for the North. I really appreciate him and what he does. He does real journalism, right? And talking about government accountability, which we've seen nothing of it. And he only mentions a couple things in his little blurb here, but I'll just get him going here. I have to hit the volume.
It's to me like I'm 5 years old. The government was put in an indefinite pause because the Liberal Party would not turn over green slush fund documents. The punishment? Nothing. Veiled threats were made by the Liberals to the Liberal Minister of Justice, where she accused Trudeau and other top Liberals of political interference in an investigation. Their punishment? Nothing. An Auditor General report shows corruption with the ArriveCan app costing taxpayers $60 million. Their punishment? Nothing. They got away with that too. The federal court finds that the Emergencies Act violated the Charter of Rights. Their punishment? Nothing. They got away with that too. Protesting your government? The government is seeking 8 years for Chris Barber and 7 years for Tamara. Ridiculous. Do you now all see the hypocrisy? Rules for thee, but not for me. And that, my friends, is the Liberals' world.
Right? Does anyone else feel the same way as we've watched the last 10 or so years go by with? I remember there was an orange juice scandal many years ago, and the media went nuts because the government paid a lot of money for an orange juice. And I think heads even rolled over that. And nowadays it's just straight on anything goes, and people see it. It's not done in a corner. It's not done, where it's right in the open. And I don't think anything else is going to change that. And we're getting towards, this whole net zero thing now, where you're going to have to give up a lot of your freedoms, really. A lot of your freedoms. The economy's going to collapse over this because we're trying to save the planet, right? Like everyone knows, we're trying to save the planet. There's climate change. It's real. We're spending all kinds of money on it. Our forests are burning because of it, right? It's all climate change. And we're making policies that are going to bankrupt the country, and that's what's going on. And for what? I've been saying for many years that we're already carbon neutral, if not the opposite. We're already way past net zero in Canada just naturally from the amount of trees we have. I made that argument, I don't know how many years ago, but Mario here, speaking of Mario, made the same, but he put it into Chat GPT. He put, how many trees do we have in Canada and how long would it take us to get to net zero, right? So he puts all the calculations into Chat GPT to ask it, what does it feel like? How long will it take for us to get to net zero in Canada, given the amount of trees we have? And here you go.
You're going to like this. A new study just came out about how clean our air quality is in Canada, and guess what? Out of 31 countries, we are ranked 8th. Only behind Iceland, New Zealand, Estonia, Ireland, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. Canada is next. Now check this out. Did you know that Canada actually has the 3rd largest forest area in the entire world? In fact, there's 362 hectares. That translates to 318 billion trees. Let's do some quick math. In 2023, Canada produced approximately 694 megatons of carbon dioxide. In fact, a mature tree typically absorbs around 21 kilograms of CO2 per year. So naturally, I didn't want to do the calculation. I asked ChatGPT to do it. I said, give me a chart showing the results and decrease the amount of trees by 25 billion until it shows we're not carbon neutral. Well, the numbers kept going by 25 billion. It wasn't doing anything. We were carbon neutral the whole time. Then I asked, yes, at what point are we carbon neutral? 18 billion trees. 18 billion. We have 318 billion trees in Canada. That means if we were to assume that 300 billion trees were completely useless, did absolutely nothing for the environment, did absolutely nothing to absorb CO2. We put it to you this way, if we took half of this number, and let's say it's 150 billion trees, the other half are useless. Let's assume we took half of this number, and only 10 kilograms per tree could absorb CO2. According to these calculations, we would still be carbon neutral. So my question is, why is Mark Carney so obsessed with leaving oil in the ground? Why are we not fully capitalizing everything that we have underneath in terms of valuable natural resources, liquefied natural gas, oil, and quadrupling production? In fact, why aren't we doing it at a factor of 20? The only 2 countries that are ahead of us in terms of oil reserve are Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. We could literally have the lowest taxes in the world, have an unbelievably successful and strong middle class, which has now been weakened because of the last 10 years, but the liberals choose to keep it in the ground.
And on top of that, not only are we already positive in terms of carbon neutrality, I don't know how to word that properly, but we're, like he said, 318 billion trees, and all you need is 18 billion trees for the amount of carbon that Canada outputs in order to make us net zero. So we're 300 billion trees to the good. Now, not only are we already in a really good position, if you even believe carbon is a danger to mankind, which many people believe it's good. Carbon is good for our air. And if you're talking about green, trees eat carbon. So it's food for plants. It's food for them. And how are trees bad? So the more carbon you got, the more trees you're going to have because it's food for them. So this whole thing is arguable to begin with. But let's say you even believe that we need to reduce our carbon. Well, Canada, if we would produce more natural gas, just natural gas alone, and then export it to all these other countries that do have a huge carbon footprint like China or India. They do have like huge carbon output, and they use coal mainly for their energy, right? But if we would just get the natural gas from Canada and export it, not only would we benefit financially, but then we would help the world reduce the carbon emissions, right? So how in the world does this make any sense of what we're actually doing? What road are we actually going down here? And then we have a British politician basically, and it always has to be the case where journalists are activists. You know, the journalists somehow aren't really journalists. It's like an activist interviewing this particular politician, because the questions they're asking, sure, if they would ask these types of questions to everybody, but they don't. It's just if it's part of their political leanings or their ideological beliefs, they're very passionate about it. You can even tell they interrupt the person that they're interviewing. They're obnoxious, kind of thing. Instead of just asking questions and really trying to get down to the truth, they're not. You can tell they're activists that are in the role of journalists these days. and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So here's this journalist questioning this politician from the Reform Party in the UK.
Man-made climate change.
Look, climate change is real, has gone on for millions of years, always will. The arrogant naivety of people who think that you can stop the power of the sun, stop the power of volcanoes.
But talking about man-made climate
hear me
change.
out. Yeah. But there's no evidence that man-made CO2 is going to change climate change. Given that it's gone on for millions of years, it will go on for millions of years.
Hold on, so
hang
you're
on, hear me out.
saying,
Hear
you're
me
saying
out.
there's no evidence that man-made climate change is changing CO2. Is that what you're saying?
So how did climate change happen before man-made CO2?
What is it that the vast majority of experts who
There are
believe
thousands of
that
scientists
human
who-
activity has impacted climate
There are thousands
change
of scientists
since
who agree
the
with my
Industrial
position.
Revolution? What is it that you know that they don't?
I've read the International Governmental Panel on Climate Change's report, AR6 I think it's called, their sixth report, and it says if you get to net zero tomorrow, it'll make no difference to sea level rise for between 200 years and 1,000 years. In other words, they've not got a clue and it won't make any difference. We're being lied to, we're being misinformed,
But that's not-
and we've got the courage to say to people, we've got to stop this nonsense. We all care about the environment, we all care about the countryside, that's why I don't want pylons blighting our countryside, that's why I don't want solar panels on it. But to suggest that a bit less CO2 is going to stop the power of the sun, stop the power of volcanoes, is arrant nonsense.
But that same panel that you were talking about, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, said human activities are the main cause of climate change. Do you agree with that? That's a yes or no question.
No, that's absolute garbage, and I've just proven it because the climate change for millions of years before man-made CO2, they are lying to people, and the Norwegian government's own equivalent of our ONS has recently produced a report along the lines of what I'm saying there's no evidence based on the real data that proves that suggestion. But funny how that doesn't appear on the mainstream media. We've got the courage to tell it as it is to the British people.
It is true, though, that
people are being ripped off by the renewable sector, by the vested interests, and we're going to stop it. We're on the side of the British people, not the vested interest, nor the mainstream politicians.
The overwhelming scientific community, there's no debate on that,
There's masses of debate
say
on
that the rate of
I can give you a list. I can give you a list of
climate
1,000
change since the Industrial Revolution has been vastly exacerbated by human activity. Do you not agree with that?
No, I don't. I can give you a list of 1,000 experts and scientists and professors, including...
That is a real minority. Why are they right and not the majority?
It's not a minority. There are loads and loads of scientists. There are loads of scientists who are terrified to speak because they won't get any research funding if they tell it as it is. There's so much money in the vested interests who are trying to push this agenda on us. It's got to stop. Only Reform UK is going to stop it. And do you know what? We're leading in the polls. Maybe the British people are starting to realise we're talking the truth. They know they're being lied to.
So NASA, when they say human activities are the primary cause of global warming and climate change, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, human activities are the main cause of climate change. They've got it wrong.
So President Trump has just been elected with a massive majority to lead the US, and he adopts our position. Maybe actually the American people, when they've been given a vote, they've realised that people like NASA, part of the establishment, they're wrong, and actually President Trump and we are correct.
And there you go. So you can see there is still a great debate to be had, and you see that journalism has become activism these days. So the journalist, you can tell, has certain beliefs, and they believe the certain side, and they're basically debating this particular politician instead of asking them questions. And if they were real journalists, and he said there's many scientists who say the opposite, then she would say, okay, well, tell me who they are because I need to hear what they have to say because I'm a real journalist and I'm not biased. And if there are dissenting voices in the scientific community, I'm going to want to know about it because we need to tell people the whole story, not just my story, what I feel is right, because I'm supposed to be an unbiased journalist from Sky News, right? But no, I'm actually debating this particular politician as if I was a politician or I was, standing for a certain side. And so there you have it. The science doesn't speak because science will never speak. Science always questions its assumptions and it's always questioning. It doesn't speak with one voice. It's always questioning itself, and journalists should do the same. And they should never come to conclusions. They should always just present the facts. And in this case, the journalist was presenting the facts, but just merely because he was saying them. But you can tell when people watch the news, they kind of trust the reporter more. Like the reporter must be knowing something that the other person doesn't know because that's their job. And so, and they have this smugness to them. You can tell the look on her face too is very smug, talking to him, talking down to him. You know, oh, what? You don't believe this? You don't believe all science? You know, kind of things like that. That's not a journalist. It's not what journalists should do. It's not what journalism is. True journalists will let you know that. Remember what you took in school. Does that look like what you learned in school? No. So what's happening today? You know? Shame on journalism today. Anyways, that's all the time we have. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for commenting. Appreciate you. We'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms, God willing. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care, and stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.